Hello, welcome to our South by Southwest EDU session, Revelations from Our Pandemic Pivots. I'm Amy Clayette, Director of TechGirlz, a nonprofit program of creating IT futures. At TechGirlz, our mission is fostering a love for technology in middle school girls. Our free open source technology courses, called Tech Shops, can be used by anyone to inspire curiosity, impart confidence, and build community as a foundation for the application of technology throughout a girl's career and life. For more than a decade, we pursued this mission through in-person workshops, creating direct connections between middle school girls and mentors, reaching tens of thousands of young women. Then COVID-19 struck, and we face an existential crisis. How could we, even should we, convert tech shops to virtual delivery when so much of our success had been achieved by putting participants and instructors in the same physical room? Well, as you no doubt expected to hear when you signed up for the session, we committed to virtual. And a year later, despite all fears and concerns to the contrary, the results have been astonishing, energizing, and in terms of our mission, simply wonderful. So we reached out to other nonprofits devoted to inspiring young women to pursue careers in technology and lead healthy, balanced lifestyles. We wanted to know if, like us, they not only survived their program's pandemic pivots, but are, in vital ways, thriving because of them. And now I'd like to share with you what we learned. Our first revelation: urgency can become innovation. Lauren Samaras is Director of Development for Girls on the Run for Montgomery, Delaware, and Chester counties in Pennsylvania. Girls on the Run is a positive youth development program for girls in 3rd to 8th grade that inspires them to be joyful, healthy, and confident using a fun, experience-based curriculum that integrates movement. But don't let the name fool you. Their program is much more than running. In fact, some girls will never run. They may skip, hop, roll, or walk as long as they move forward. Leaders at Girls on the Run, like Lauren, envision a world where every girl knows and activates her limitless potential and is free to boldly pursue her dreams. But how free can you feel locked up inside all day, every day, away from your classmates and your friends, as social distancing asks of us these days? Lauren and her colleagues didn't want young women in their communities to have to sacrifice joy and confidence to feel healthy and safe. So, as mentors and role models, they showed the girls how to keep faith in crisis, move forward, stay focused, and be ready to flex.
We went into overdrive. Honestly, we were running on adrenaline. We pulled together of our mighty team of the time. We had five of us staff members, and we just got involved and did as much as we could. We collaboratively worked with our headquarters. We worked with our sister councils across the state of Pennsylvania. We're actually, we have more councils in the state of Pennsylvania than any other state in the country, which is amazing. So we had a lot of resources and a lot of wonderful people to partner with. But the mood was just, we don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to make something happen. And we just committed to taking it one day at a time. And as we all kept joking the whole time, it was like, building the plane while it's flying, right? I'm sure like probably every company and every organization used that expression so many times. And we would say it almost every day, like, we're not sure what we're doing, but we know that at the end of the day, our focus was, how do we best serve our girls and our community at this time? And how do we want to be remembered when this is all over? Do we want to be, the organization that just said, you know what, we're going to put our hands up. It's too hard. It's too much. We're just going to take a pause. Or are we going to just really, get down and get focused and say, okay, again, we know our girls needed this program and our families before the pandemic, and they really need it now. I mean, we know already, we've seen the isolation and the struggles that our families and our girls are experiencing during this time. And so we just realized that we needed to continue and have some continuity of programming for the girls as the world was kind of upending. We knew that a safe place that the girls were used to, seeing their friends and their coaches, if we could be that resource for them, we were going to do that. And that's exactly what we did. We kept going like 2 weeks at a time. We're like, okay, we're going to get through the next 2 weeks. We're going to film, we're going to repurpose, we're going to have these like 2-week virtual meetings. And then we have a good feeling we're going to go back and we're going to just pick right up, where it left off. And as we know, that didn't happen. So we just kept going. I mean, we had so many girls that they've been waiting for Girls on the Run. Like we said, it only happens in the spring. So there was so much momentum and so much excitement around the program that we just kept going. And so we ended up completing 16 lessons at home, which we ended up calling it Goater Connect at the time. And we successfully delivered 16 lessons virtually. So, we're happy that we were able to provide that resource for the girls and their families at a time where we felt like they needed it more than ever. I think our biggest worry is that the connection between the girls and each other, and the connection between the girls and the coaches is one of the things that makes Girls on the Run so powerful. And in our longitudinal external study, one of the things that have shown Girls on the Run to be so effective is that coach to girl relationship. And so we were worried that when this relationship went online and went virtual, that would the girls be able to connect, and would the girls connect with each other? Would they connect with the coaches? Would they connect with the lessons? And would the program still be so effective and so transformative for the girls? And so I'm happy to say, we had our first all virtual season that we launched this past fall. And the evaluations from parents, girls, and coaches were overwhelmingly positive. We had 100% of the volunteer coaches say that the experience was valuable, worth their time, and they felt that they connected with the girls. And we had 95% of parents say that it was a valuable experience for their girl and that they were able to learn critical life skills. And so, of course, we like in person, we want to be in person, but I think forever we're going to offer some virtual programming because we're also able to access a subset of our population that have never been able to participate in Girls on the Run before, either from a transportation standpoint, maybe, for whatever reasons, some physical limitations that just kept them from actually, going to a Girls on the Run lesson. We have modifications that make it accessible for everybody. And so we've had some really neat testimonials from families saying like, my girl could never participate before and now she can, and they're very grateful. So I think one of the things is we're reframing sort of what success looks like. So in the spring, right before the pandemic hit, we were serving over 2,200 girls right here in, southeastern suburban Pennsylvania. And we had over 600 volunteer coaches. We were in over 100 schools. So we were riding high on like, this is the definition of success, right? It's like more girls. And we were very focused certainly on quality of programming. But we just kept growing exponentially every year. So now, fast forward almost a year later, we did offer again a fall season and a winter season for the first time ever. We had about 220 plus or minus girls for those seasons. And so obviously from like a number standpoint, that's way different. And we had no framework to say, like, we've never done a fall season or winter season. So we didn't know. So again, we're happy to be in the community. We're happy to be a resource. We are now launching our spring season, which, we're hoping and we are advocating for a robust spring season. Every girl that registers is a gift, and we are celebrating every girl and every family. And so while it may not be the huge, vast, number, again, metric or measurement that we had in the past, we're celebrating every girl.
Our second revelation, grit can become growth. Ashley Turner is the founder of Philly Tech Sistas, an organization whose goal is diversifying the tech industry by empowering women of color with the skills and leadership tools needed to thrive in Philadelphia's rich tech community. Philly Tech Sistas provides intro to programming, workshops, and professional development events that build leadership, confidence, and community. Working with the region's technology companies as partners, Ashley and her team help bridge the diversity, equity, and inclusion gap by providing a greater pipeline of diverse talent. Like TechGirlz, Black Girls Code, and Girls on the Run, Philly Tech Sistas thrived on in-person events that created direct connections between mentors and aspiring technologists. So when lockdown started to roll in, at first Ashley and her group felt maybe they should pull back. But as the COVID crisis worsened, they recognized the right move was to dig in and reach out.
We had an event scheduled for March that we, of course, had to cancel. And we thought that we would be away for maybe 2 weeks. But then we saw how the numbers for COVID cases kept climbing. And then we saw, Philly Tech Week, which was a big event for us. We saw that Philly Tech Week got rescheduled. And we knew then that we weren't going to go back to face workshops. So we tried to think of different ways that we could meet people where they were. We saw that a lot of people were laid off from their jobs or furloughed. We saw that the schools were being closed, so parents were at home with their kids. And we thought that the mother daughter coding workshop would be a perfect fit for both the parents and the kids to learn something together. So we thought that, let's do this mother daughter coding workshop and, just pivot to online and we'll have a good time. Before COVID, we hosted 5 to 6 hour workshops where we would provide breakfast and lunch, and we would have fun, we would play games, we would dance. So we were trying to figure out how to keep that same fun, highly engaging experience online. So, we began to think, one, we of course we had to cut down the workshops to about 90 minutes to 2 hours at the very most, but still deliver that engagement piece and that fun experience in a safe environment. So that took a lot of reworking our workshop because during our workshops, our mentors are key. Our members really depend on them to help them through some of the exercises. So we really wanted to make sure that the members had enough time with the mentors to ask questions that they wouldn't be able to ask the instructors while the workshop was going on. So we had to figure out how to, create a very engaging online experience. We also needed to figure out how to make sure we had all the resources and materials that everyone needed all in one platform, one online platform rather, so that people didn't have to scramble and figure out where to get information from. So we had to figure out a way to communicate and chat with each other in between workshops. So we've had to play around with several different platforms to figure out what's the best way to communicate with our members. So there have been several challenges. So some of the things that did surprise me was how eager that, our members were still ready to learn and grow. I thought that, with this being a crisis, people may be experiencing different emotions and they wouldn't feel like learning or hopping online to learn this new skill, but the demand actually grew. We kept getting emails after emails asking about when our next event was for children and adults. Our reach expanded way beyond Philadelphia. We've got members from Maryland, Chicago, Texas, Missouri, and beyond. It's quite remarkable, the response, that we were able to reach beyond Philadelphia. Before COVID, we had around 900 members, but today we have around 1,500 and growing. We grew, to 1,500 over a very short amount of time. So we're really proud about that. We've expanded beyond Philadelphia. Before COVID, we hosted in-person workshops, and then we switched to online 2 hour workshops. And moving forward, we will be providing a 6 week online blended learning course where our members will have about 2 hours of live instruction on the weekends. And during the week, they'll be able to meet with their mentor where they'll have group mentor sessions. During these sessions, they'll be able to ask deeper questions about the assignments they received during the online instruction. And we're going to also provide some career coaching for them. So moving forward, we're going to try to provide a more holistic approach where they'll be able to stretch out some of their learning over several weeks. That way they won't feel so fatigued online. So we're looking forward to creating this membership platform where members will be able to get more out of their experience. We're really trying to meet people where they are right now. And right now, people are looking for work. They're looking to move up in their work. and they're looking for resources that can help them get to the place that they want to be.
Our third revelation: energy can become expansion. Isis Miller is the Community and Events Manager for Black Girls Code. Black Girls Code works to increase the number of women of color in the digital space by empowering girls of color from age 7 to 17 to become innovators in STEM fields, leaders in their communities, and builders of their own futures through exposure to computer science and technology. At any given time in the US market, there are more than 1 million computing jobs of various kinds across industries. Black Girls Code wants to help fill that gap by training African American youth with technologist skills. And traditionally, the organization pursued this mission through in-person events. So at first, Isis and her colleagues wondered, would this pandemic put a disabling drag on their efforts? But as we at TechGirlz and my other guests discovered, there was no grinding halt. There was an enthusiastic expansion.
I love that phrase, the existential crisis, because it is, right? It forces you to sit with yourself and decide, who are we as a company? Who are we as an organization? How are we going to move forward? And that was what we were doing, right? Was really having those difficult conversations around like, who are we now? And how is this going to shape us going forward? And really, how is it going to make us better able to serve our students? So the mood, I think, was, of course, anxious. And luckily, to be honest, I understood that we were already starting to consider a more online model anyways, and we were starting to incorporate that. Of course, we weren't ready for this big pivot as of yet. This sort of suddenly hit, but luckily it was a conversation that was already being had internally. So we were a little bit more prepared in that way, but again, certainly we were anxious. And I think that anxiety was less about the learning curves that would come, because of course there were going to be learning curves along the way. But it was more about like arising to this new challenge. And I think that that's how our organization luckily always operates. And that it's really how our leaders lead, is like, yes, this is certainly unprecedented and we weren't expecting any of this, but how do we rise to the occasion and how do we rise to this challenge? So I think there was a lot of excitement in the air about what our offerings could look like, because I think we knew pretty much immediately that this was an opportunity for us to serve more students than we ever had before, when we were doing things in person. You know, we have 15 chapters across the US, and we are constantly bombarded with emails from folks across the world, really, who are excited to have a Black Girls Code chapter in their city. And we simply, as a smaller team, you know, of course, we want to hit every city. We want to go everywhere in the world, but we can't. And it's something that we're certainly building out, and we're opening new chapters. But this brought us the opportunity to your point, have girls from India and Africa in the same room with our Bay Area and our New York students. And so that to us was fun. And it really broadened our community in a way that I don't even think we could have anticipated. And I think in a lot of ways, that's how nonprofits work. We're scrappy, and we do things sort of in a reactionary sense, because there are elements beyond our control. So it was a lot of collaboration. It was a lot of trying and see what worked and what didn't work, and changing changing on a dime when things didn't work, or if there was a timing problem, and having to also get feedback from our community. So we weren't afraid to make mistakes, I think is what we found there, and to learn quickly from those mistakes. Yeah, you would think that we would all sort of like isolate ourselves and just try to get through the trudge of day-to-day life. But really what we saw is what we see from human nature, is that at the end of the day, we need each other, we need community. And at the end of the day, we really do want to see good in the world. I too was like, man, these girls are gonna get so sick of having to go to school all day online and then do something optional at the end of the day. Like, how, even
Right.
I find that to be a challenge when, I have a full work day and there's Zoom meetings, and then at the end of the day, someone wants to jump on a call, or it's hard. And so I think that was a surprise for me as well, to know that our girls are actually, the interest, it increases. Our numbers of attendance have increased throughout. So that has been a huge surprise. And I think, again, I'm continued to, I continue to marvel at how much they want to learn even outside of their classes. I mean, I knew our students were brilliant and ambitious and goal oriented, but they continue to surprise me in that way. For me, as a seasoned event coordinator and a producer, I very much thrive and see success based on what is happening in this physical space, right? I'm always what they call, vibe checking and seeing the energy in the room and feeling the energy and seeing how people are engaging with the event and with each other. And so I had to definitely take a step back and say, well, now our girls aren't going to be physically in the same room, and what does success look like in a virtual space? And so, of course, there's consideration of the numbers and how many folks register and attend and the reach. It really got to be in a space of like, how are we engaging the students that have always been a part of BGC, and making sure that they also feel engaged during this time and that we don't lose them. So that was really huge for me, is just how do we interact with those girls who have been in person and now are in a virtual sense, and to make sure that we hold them into our family, as well as invite others to join our family as well. Our numbers have been insane. Since going virtual, we've had over 180 virtual events. So huge events there. We've had over 20,000 registrants for those events. We've served over 10,000 more students to date. We've more than doubled those numbers. And our registration numbers for events have never been higher. So like I said, it's been hugely successful, far beyond what we thought we were going to see. And definitely far beyond the reach that we've had when we were doing an in-person model.
So when I reflect on my conversations with my nonprofit sisters, I feel the greatest revelation from our pandemic pivots is this. If we confront our toughest challenges with a sense of urgency, true grit, and irrepressible energy, we can transform the crisis that threatens to drive us apart into forces that draw us closer together. That, perhaps, is the best gift that we can share with not only the next generation of aspiring women technologists, but with our colleagues, family, and friends too. Thank you for joining our talk today. There's so much more we'd like to share with you. That's why next month, TechGirlz Talk, which is an award-winning podcast produced by TechGirlz parent organization, Creating IT Futures, is running 3 episodes featuring the rest of my conversations with Isis, Ashley, and Lauren. You can look for TechGirlz Talk on Apple or Google Podcasts, or wherever you go to find great audio programming. And of course, more great programs are coming from my nonprofit sisters too. Black Girls Code is hosting a hackathon with Nike. Philly Tech Sisters is launching a new speaker series. And Girls on the Run of Montgomery, Delaware, and Chester counties in Pennsylvania is celebrating its 15th anniversary this spring with a series of special events, online, in person, and a mix of both, following social distance guidelines, of course. You can catch all the details by visiting our websites or by following us on social media. I am Amy Clayette, Director of TechGirlz, a nonprofit program of Creating IT Futures. I'll save the last few minutes of our session to show you our contact info. Thank you. Goodbye, and enjoy the rest of the 2021 South by Southwest EDU Conference.